So, hello everyone, it's me, Tiefyweefy, and yes, believe it or not, I am back after quite a long hiatus. So we have a couple of things to talk about, mostly where have I been this last month, and it's a little bit hard to talk about. I mean, there were some things going on in my realm with some of the leadership. Thank you, Mira, for following. Thank you for joining. So there were some things going on in my realm with leadership. Thank you. That were kind of making me feel very distracted. And not much like streaming. But also, if I'm being honest about it, it was just really hard for me to be in a good space, which I know some of you watching this might be saying, but Tiffy, you're always in a good mood, like you're always in good energy. And hey, Mira, but the truth is, even I have days where I'm not in a really good mood. Hello. And so I was basically not having a good day for about a month. And I know that sounds kind of silly, but that's just the way it was. I was dealing with a lot of things in myself and parts of my personality that I didn't really like, and this part of me that second guesses things. That was a major part of it, and just kind of wondering whether I was still going to be good enough to even do streaming, which is why I'm just kind of doing this to try to get myself comfortable with it again. But I guess one of the biggest things that I wanted to talk about was just how difficult it kind of is to do this VTubing thing. Thank you so much for the little gift. I'm sorry I didn't say anything right away. I'm kind of still getting over my nerves, but thank you so much. What I did want to talk about is being a VTuber with a disability, and you know, that is one of the biggest reasons that I decided to get into this to begin with, is because I wanted to give representation, and I wanted to give acknowledgement and proof, essentially, that people with disabilities do exist, and we do want to do things with our lives. And hi, Fumble. So that was my mission when I first started, and it still is my mission, but over the last month, I've really had to grapple with the extra layering that disability adds on top of the multi-layered situation that is already being a VTuber. Because, as many of you know, there are yeah, I see what you mean about the overlay. And since I can actually, I'll just have to fix it later. But thanks, Collie, for pointing that out. That's just kind of one of those things. I've been out of the streaming for such a while. Good evening, Dino. Happy to see you. So I've just been really realizing how difficult this being a VTuber with a disability is. And I'm not saying that to say, well, like that excuses me not being on here for about a month. But it was just a combination of dealing with my own feelings about whether I was going to be adequate enough and whether, hey, good to see you too. Thanks for stopping by, Kuma. It was just really me looking at, am I going to be good enough? Am I capable enough? Oh, well, I mean, it's nice that you want to join me instead of sleeping. But, if you need to sleep, sleep. But I just really had to deal with my own feelings of not being sure of myself. Thank you for hosting. And and of course I'm trying to keep my thoughts together. I am so glad. Hello, Aurora. So good to see you. So I'm actually really glad I'm not trying to do a game right now, even though I was kind of thinking that I might stream a game and chat at the same time. Just having you guys here and chat is something to get used to all over again. So I'm glad I decided to go easy on myself and not try to cast a bunch of different magic at the same time. But it's really just been dealing with myself mostly. It really is true what they say. Oh, yes, Collie, it's so nice to see that there are people who want to hang out with me, but, I really had to realize, that my biggest monster isn't even in the bestiary. I'm my own biggest monster, and my fears are my own biggest challenge, and so that's what I've been dealing with for the last month, is really facing those and not being able to slay them each and every day. And it does mean a lot that I have people who support me and are even here just wanting to chat with me. And I know, watching after my well-being is important. Thank you for the follower. My well-being is important, but I also know, thank you. I also know that the bigger the dragon, the more important it is to at least go and fight it. Even if it is scary, and yes, Kali, that is the worst monster. Because sometimes it convinces you not to fight it. Yay! Oh, thank you. Thank you. I don't even know what to say. Thank you. And so, oh my gosh. So, sometimes I was just dealing with the fact that, maybe I shouldn't even try to get over my anxiety. And so that's kind of what happened for a month, is that I couldn't get over it. Oh, thank you everybody so much. I don't know what to say except thank you, and that doesn't sound like enough. And if this keeps up, I'm not going to be able to keep my thought process, but it's so sweet of you. Thank you for the love. So, that's part of what I was dealing with. And, so I'm not going to lie about that. I spent a lot of time saying, well, I should be better at streaming. I should be better at multitasking with some of this stuff. And a lot of people are on Twitter more than I am, and they're on Twitch more than I am. And so it was just a bunch of, negative self-talk. And as a wizard, I should know, as a wizard and a bard, I should know the power of words. And that is doubly true for how you speak about yourself. And that's one thing that I've always tried to say to others who might be watching and things like that, is to just, if you're going to talk about yourself, why not do so positively? Well, I was not the best example of that to myself over the last month. And Kali says, oh, Barizard, yes. Yes, I sound like some very unique creature that you should be able to summon out of a magic ball and get to fight battles for you. But anyway, so I was not following my own advice. Okay. Well, if you have to head out, that's totally fine. I appreciate that you wanted to drop by anyway, and I will have a great rest of my stream. So thank you for being here, even if it was just for a short time. Golly, Tiefyweefy, I choose you. Yes. Well, you did kind of choose me by wanting to be my faithful support bard. Oh, thank you for the subscription. I still don't know what to do with that, except say thank you. I hope it's gonna be worth it. I think it will, once I find my self again, which I'm in the middle of doing. But anyway, so that was part of it. But there was also a big part of it to do with technology, and that there's a lot of technology that VTubers have to be technical wizards with to begin with. But then when I'm trying to use that technology and take into account my disability or ways that my body does or doesn't work, that's very hard. Because I somehow have to be able to take the technology that other VTubers can use without a second thought, and I have to look at it and I say, can I even use this in its current state or not? So that's, to be honest with you, that was also what was going on last month, was working with my 3D simulacrum and figuring out how to work with it, because I need to use a different tool to interact with it. A keyboard is not very easy on my Scribble. It's not very easy for my hands, so I had to find a way to get those keys to go on a series of buttons instead. So that's a whole nother layer that I don't think a lot of VTubers would choose to do of their own volition. Thank you. Thank you so much. It's not something that a normal VTuber would do. Would just say, well, I'm gonna try to put all of my simulacrum's expressions on a series of buttons, and I'm gonna do that just because I want to spend the extra time, energy, and effort to do so. So because I don't think a lot of other VTubers without physical disabilities would choose to do that, and I had to find a way that's stressful. And it was also a little bit disheartening because I had to find a key binding program, and then I had to find ways to say, can I put these expressions on this button? Does it work? Does it not work? Does it get stuck in one expression over another? Oh boy, the hype train. I just saw some of those notifications. So that was very stressful because I see all these other VTubers who make putting on their different expressions and their simulacrums look very easy, and I'm over here having to figure out a whole nother layer of how I can do my expressions, because the way they were, I had to try to push 3 buttons at the same time, and that's not gonna work for me. My hands don't work that well. They don't have that much dexterity. So I really had to find a workaround, and I'm probably gonna have to do it over again, because then this month I also had issues with finding a gaming controller that was gonna work even a little bit for me. And I don't know how many of you tuned in about a week ago with the stream that I did on Mira's channel to help her raise some funds, but that was a great example of the controller I had was not really that great for me personally. And so then I went on this whole journey to try to find something that would work better, only to realize that the controllers I first tried solved one problem that I was having, but then created 5 more. So as you can see, it was pretty much a full month of thinking I had made progress and making progress on being able to use my model or being able to interact with games, only to realize, no, I solved this one issue that I was having, but now these buttons don't work, or now this feature doesn't work, or it only works when I do it a certain way, or worse, I press a button and it does something that it completely shouldn't do. And it kind of reminds me of my physical body in real life. Like it's funny actually, like I try to go and do something and a whole different part of my body might respond sometimes, and I just have to sit there and say, I didn't ask for you. Like, I didn't ask for that to happen. So I felt like this whole VTubing thing that I was trying to do last month was just nothing but that. Let's see what Aurora says here. Controllers really are a big hurdle. Even for me, I have problems just because I have really small hands. Me too. I can't imagine how much worse it must be for people with hand-related disabilities. Yes, so I not only have small hands like you, but on one side I have a hand that has more limited mobility. So I really have to find something that will work within those limits and still make the game or the situation fun. Hydrate break there. But this is not to say that I'm getting disheartened. I'm not. I just wanted to, oh, thanks for the hug. Yes, I've been needing lots of hugs, and I really do appreciate it. And I don't want this stream to just be me kind of dumping all of these things in a not constructive way. I'm just really becoming mindful of, I should really talk about this, and I guess that's one of the reasons why I've made disability and being a virtual presence, being a VTuber, something that's important to me, because it doesn't get talked a lot about in the VTubing community to begin with, nor in the disability community. In general, I think that people who aren't VTubers have this idea that we just somehow become our virtual personas, and that there's no work, and that there's no layering and that it just somehow happens, when in reality there's 5 different kinds of magic being worked. There's 5 different spells going on at the same time to create that experience. And so I guess my biggest point in making this stream of consciousness as it is for a stream was to just say it's been difficult for me because I am facing challenges of, I want my model to work and express. I want it to move and do these things, but how do I do that when my physical body has movement issues? And how do I learn the things that I need to learn when sometimes, for as smart as I am about certain things, my brain is not necessarily wired for figuring out all this technical stuff. And Kali says, do you have a program that can set up macros? I do, but only in terms of like this one game that I really like to play. Like, it already has some built-in macros, and I've been looking into some programs for the keyboard to allow me to do a macro. So if anyone has any recommendations for a program that would let me do macros on a keyboard, I would really like to get those, because the only program that I've been using, which is not really for macros, it will do it, but it is Joy to Key, and that has helped with some things, but not everything, because I would like to have some more elaborate commands on some keys that, with my native keyboard the way it is, I don't have the software to do it. So if anyone has any recommendations, this Tiefy is all ears. Okay, let me collect my thoughts. So aside from all of that, which was a challenge enough, then there's these realm-wide sort of things that we're all sort of dealing with, even if you're not necessarily in my particular instance of this realm. We are all dealing with some very large and overarching things, such as government and overall health of the world and kind of our population and stuff in general. And so that's also, I'm gonna be honest, been making something that's already gonna take a lot of my brain power, trying to balance that and balance my emotions around that has been hard, but it's hard for everyone. So that's kind of why I even resisted talking about what I was going through for a long time. Because I'm just like, well, everybody's going through that. How can I sit there and talk about things like, there's a bunch of out of control things going on with some elected officials. There's a health crisis. I don't feel like I can really talk about that because, like, everybody's dealing with that. But I guess it just is more difficult when you add disability on top of all of that. Yes, the plague outside, says Colleen, must make it really hard for you to be able to go outside to be an adventurer. Yes, which is partly why I'm doing all of these things through my Scribble. It's why I've learned the level of casting magic that I've learned, is because I have so much time inside. And reading books will only entertain you for so long. So there have been a lot of things that I've thought about I wanted to talk about, and then I just said, well, but everybody's dealing with it, but I guess not everyone is dealing with a disability on top of all that. And I guess I should really go easier on myself because of that. But it's not very easy for me to, because I say, well, I've been dealing with my disability my whole life, so it should be, I shouldn't be struggling. But then again, like, who wouldn't be struggling under all that? Yes, I am a cloistered VTuber. Let's see what Dino Sawyer says. I don't know if this will have a lot of bearing on the subject, but I'm reminded of a fellow I know, Gregory Irons, a professional wrestler in Chicago that also has cerebral palsy, which is actually, thank you for bringing that up. That is actually my disability. I also have cerebral palsy. So it is relevant. And he says, and he kicks ass just like you kick ass. Plain and simple, yes. Yes, and Collie, I do have my skills growing in performance and persuasion. But, I guess since we're on the topic of disability, since I can't remember if I've actually been that open about the disability I do have. I did state it on Twitter in the early days of my profile, and then I just kind of summed it up as disability. But since we're talking about cerebral palsy as the disability I do have, I also did want to talk about how that does affect me. It does largely affect my physical body. And so mostly just my ability to move around and do a lot of daily activities for myself. But then again, what princess does not have help doing those things? So I guess it's okay that I need that kind of help. But I also just want to say, like, part of that disability is why some of you have seen on my streams that I kind of have trouble processing too much information at one time, and probably why I get a little bit lost in games. It might have something to do with the cerebral palsy, I don't know. But I'm gonna say more than likely, because it is classified as a developmental disability, which means when I was supposed to go through these different developmental stages as a kid, it means that I went through them at a later date because of things beyond my control. And so Panzer says, Tiefy, I have to go, but I'm glad to have finally caught a stream. Also, for anyone who needs it, AHK is a wonderful macro program. Super easy to use and learn. Brother has issues with mobility and uses it a lot. Thank you, Panzer. I will check it out. I really will. And thank you for dropping by my stream. I really appreciate it. Thanks, Collie, for that. And if you wouldn't mind writing it down, my support bard, I would be very appreciative in case I forget. So it is a developmental disability that I have. And it just means that I went through some developmental stages later than some people. And that also has to do with me being born prematurely. I was actually born along with my twin brother 3 months early. And so when my brother and I were born, we were very, very tiny. Yay, Aurora, I'm kind of glad to know that we're buddies that way, as weird as that sounds. But yeah, my brother and I were born very tiny. I was 1 pound, 16 ounces or something like that. I don't remember exactly, but I was very tiny. And so I wasn't really born with my disability as far as I came popping out of my mama that way. It's the physicians that my mother went to see later said, well, it was due to what happened to me a few days after I was born. And so because I had a period of where I was not breathing at all, that's where they say that the brain injury happened, which then basically created the cerebral palsy. And the physicians even said it would be remarkable if I had any function at all due to the amount of time that I was without oxygen. And so this is sort of my long-winded way of saying, if you've ever watched me do a stream of Diablo or anything like that, and you have ever wondered why I kind of hold on to the in-game map like a blanket, that's kind of why. Because it makes it easier to navigate with my brain when it sometimes does not process all of that, or it needs little reminders, or it needs little nudges about where I've been. That's why. It's not that I'm not smart, it's just my brain has slippery fingers when it comes to that. Like, it can remember other things, no problem. Like, I can remember stuff from books that I've read or films that I've watched or anything like that, but oh boy, for some reason, me and any kind of directional stuff is difficult. I can learn my way around. I have to use landmarks and things. But I have these weird things that I do more than likely to cope with my disability. Let's see what Aurora says here. She says, I feel that. I feel like a lot of folks don't realize what a huge difference in-game objective reminders can make for some of us. She says, I get lost all the time in games. Forget what I'm doing within minutes. Yeah. That is sometimes me. I literally need to have the quest up there. And, but, you know, what I do want to say is, believe it or not, I still enjoy games. I still love them. Even if I'm not good at them, and even if I really struggle. I know this is going to be surprising to the big gamer community out there, but I love games even if I completely cannot play them. I love the opportunity that it gives me to experience some new locations. I love the opportunity that it gives me to have a reason to hang out with people. It's really hard to explain. I like something even though I'm terrible at it. And maybe this is just another disability superpower. Maybe that's what it is, because I have a lot of stuff in my life that I'm not good at, but I still love my life. And I feel like for some people, they don't know what to do with that. They look at me and they say, How can you love your life? You have a disability. You're disadvantaged. You can't go and do what I can do. How are you even enjoying yourself? And I guess from my perspective, it's not the end of the world. Granted, I don't know what I'm missing out on. Let's be real. I have no frame of reference to what life would be like without a disability. But that being said, I think when you have to grow up and you realize that there are just, thank you so much. When you grow up and you realize that there are just going to be some things that you're not going to do like everybody else, I think you just learn early on that you just have to enjoy something to the best of your ability, and that you actually redefine fun. So for me, fun in playing video games is not so much how good I'm doing at it. It's, can I even do it at all? And not only that, like, can I go explore? Do I get to enjoy the atmosphere? Do I get to enjoy the lore, the voice acting, the music? All of those things are why I enjoy games, even though I'm not good at it. And yes, thank you so much for subscribing. I really, really, really appreciate it. So I guess that's what I just also want to say is that's, oh my goodness. Dino, you did not have to do that. Dino, that's so nice. That's so nice. Thank you for gifting Aurora that. That's very sweet. Thank you. So I guess that's the other point that I want to make is there's this gaming culture that I knew I was gonna come right up against, this gaming V-streamer, VTuber culture that I knew I was gonna come right up against, which is, well, you shouldn't even be out here doing this if you're not a pro and if you're not good and if, you don't do this, that, and the other thing and do 360 no scope or whatever that phrase is, right? And so I kind of knew that I was gonna come up against that in a big way. Just because most streamers need to be good at games to be, considered a successful streamer, or at least they think. And thankfully, I haven't had, anybody be that, rude to me or anything, but the culture is pervasive. And I'm sorry, but this little Tiefy is here to be like, what if you don't have to be good at a thing to enjoy it, number one? And number two, what if you like games because you like them? And number three, what if you want to do games when you're bad at them? As a person with a disability, to be like, I can do this and still have fun. It's the rest of you that have your ego about it. It's the rest of you that put so much self-worth into this. Like, meanwhile, I'm just over here trying to have fun. Let's see what Aurora says here. And she says, I still feel that I was really afraid of that. You have to be the best culture too. Part of the reason I stream is I want to show people it's okay not to be great at every game. Yes. So you and I we are cut from the same cloth, as my mother used to say. that is why I want to do it. And I also am doing it to basically show that performance culture of perfection is inherently toxic. And not only that, I mean, it's bad for many kinds of gamers. Don't get me wrong, okay? This applies to other kinds of gamers too. But my big beef about this is that for streamers and VTubers with disabilities, this might as well be a death sentence. This might as well be the streaming community being like, there's no place for you because you're gimpy and you're not good and you do terribly. Let's see what Aurora says here. And she says, it's so weird how the culture has changed too. When I was a kid, games were almost a group effect. I remember my mama having friends over just to help her with games she was stuck on. Yes. And I am no stranger to that. Like, I think the other reason that I like games so much is that my brother and my cousins actually, they spend a lot of time playing games growing up, and so I spent a lot of time watching them. And it was just a really fun social collaborative thing. And there was no sense of, oh, you should be the best because, nobody wants to watch you noob your way through this, And don't get me wrong, I get that there's a certain amount of performance, okay? There's a certain amount of, like, skill that might be fun for certain people to watch. But, I mean, I will watch some streamers who are terrible at games just because I want to hear what they have to say. Just because I want to get their worldview on things, or just because I can't wait to hear what the next funny thing is that they're going to say. And so I knew I was going to be going up against that a lot when I even decided to get into streaming. I knew that I was going to be going upstream by doing streams where I basically said, this is not going to be about how well I can do a game. This is probably going to be how much of the game can I do, how long can I play it for before I run into a barrier, and how far do I actually end up getting. And I think for a lot of people, that's a strange concept. And there are many people who are like, I won't even stream unless I'm perfect. And I was kind of getting there myself. And let me just catch up on some messages here really quick. Aurora says, so weird. Okay, I already read that. There we go. See, I'm doing it already, but okay. Yes, I remember doing that too. We used to print out whole walkthroughs and staple them into books. Nowadays, people shame you for using walkthroughs. It's so weird. Yeah, we used to do that too. And there used to be whole cheat guides and all this kind of stuff. And then it just seems like, well, you shouldn't need any help if you're going to be like super good and super valuable as a streamer. And it's like, why? First of all, that's too much pressure to put on anybody, right? But then, like, on our demographic, people with disabilities, that's like the worst thing, because we already know that we're not going to be able to meet some of these expectations. And the thing is, for myself, I'm okay with it. I'm okay that I'm not gonna be able to do certain things, but it's like all these other people that are like that don't know how to deal with that. Let me just catch up. So, dinosaur, I'm gonna have to bow out. Teef's gotta get that long rest in for work. And that's totally fine, Dino. You do what you gotta do. That long rest is important, so go rest up. Thank you for joining me, though. I really appreciate it. Okay, catching up on. Okay. Kali says, also, Tiefy, do you plan on stopping by a slightly DM stream again? Yes, I do, actually. I was in one in the early part of November, which is kind of neither here nor there, because I doubt there's a recording of it still up, but to answer your question, Kali, yes, I am actually going to be in another Wyvern Wednesdays coming up here on December 9th. So that's going to be exciting. For now, I have the plan to play myself, because I like the disability representation and all that. That's kind of why I like to do it. I know I could be anything else that I wanted. But I really like playing myself just to remind people, like, I meant what I said about disability representation. I also meant what I said about disability and access in tabletop roleplay games. That's really the reason I do it, is because I don't want people to forget that that's what I'm here for, and in fact that's why I am who I am. I'm a tiefling VTuber for a reason. I mean, tieflings are in Dungeons and Dragons, and disability has always been a huge part of my Dungeons and Dragons experience. So I want people to always remember that people with disabilities belong. And that's what I'm going to say to wrap this back around to what I was talking about a second ago with this streaming culture, is that because there's so much perfection, and because there's this culture of, like, if you're not good, then don't bother, like, you're an embarrassment. That's the same kind of culture, in a way, that I've also had to see in some tabletop games, especially Dungeons and Dragons, and with this one of my connections on Twitter, Sarah Thompson. She's actually the brilliant artificer behind the combat chair, and people are still losing their collective minds over the fact that she even created a wheelchair as a magic item, as if the whole fantasy world is going to explode from that one item. Never mind that we have mind flares, we have flying carpets, we have staffs of fireball, we have all these things that are much more fanciful than a combat wheelchair. But oh no, that's way too realistic. That's way too out there for a game with actual flipping dragons in it. So I've watched those reactions to her creations, and I have not entered into any arguments about it, because I've learned that it's not really useful to argue with people like that, because they've already made up their minds, yes, and they have they do have small brains, and so I shouldn't feed into that, and so that's why I don't. But the point I do want to make is because there are mindsets out there, like, why would you want to put disability in tabletop? Like, when the whole idea is to escape or to not have disabilities. This is the same kind of mindset that's in the streaming parts of the streaming community when they say, well, you need to be this good in doing these kinds of games, or you need to be able to clear this kind of stuff with in this kind of way or under this amount of time. All of that is fundamentally against our demographic. It's basically like we don't exist and we shouldn't exist. And this is where me getting on the stream tonight was not only an act of bravery, but I guess a bit of an act of defiance. To say to myself, if I'm going to encourage other people to be who they are and to embrace their disabilities and embrace what they're not good at, then I can't stop. Then if I quit doing that, then I basically put more proof in that pudding. And it's not worth it. I mean, I don't want to eat any more of that pudding anyway. I don't want to eat the pudding that says, oh, you individuals with disabilities, you can't possibly be anything worthwhile because your body doesn't work right, or your brain doesn't work right, or your emotions are not typical, or whatever the complaint is. Nobody needs to be fed any more of that. Spoon-fed or otherwise, particularly not our demographic. And so that's why I'm here to say everybody deserves to have opportunities. Everybody does. And they deserve to share their point of view. They deserve to share their experience. However they want to do that. And it shouldn't be devalued. Particularly in an environment where I actually think some of these notions deserve to be challenged. Like, they deserve to be confronted with the same zeal that a bunch of adventurers confront an actual monster. And that instead of just going, run away, and let's not deal with this, I think the VTubing community, but particularly the VTubers with disabilities, I think we should make an adventuring or adventurers guild, and we should say, hey, the things that we have to do as a quest is take on all this crap. We're gonna take it on, and we're gonna have fun doing it, because no one else is gonna take on that quest. And so I say, why not us? I mean, if we're already here doing it, and if just existing is like a radical idea, then why not just make that part of the mission? And not to just pick fights with people that are not worth, getting into a bit of combat with, but to basically say, if nobody presents a counter dialogue, and this is what they teach you when you do anything with writing, is always present a counter dialogue, that your story and that your life experience is much more interesting when you present something that's the opposite of the norm. And so I feel like that's what VTubers with disabilities, me and Aurora and many other people that I'm so grateful I get to be friends with, I feel like that's kind of what we're here to do. And let me just catch up on some of these notes here. So Collie's like, yeah, we took an arrow to the knee and we're still adventurers. And what's your excuse? Yes. Yeah, kinda. Because there is this view in tabletop, or this meme, I guess, where people are like, oh, I got injured. And so I guess because I have a debilitation, I can't be an adventurer anymore. And it's just like, whatever, man. If you're gonna let that stop you, like, fine, but don't come over to me on my disc and be like, Tiefy, you shouldn't do this because you make too many mistakes. You know, it's like, I'm gonna make them. Dang it, I'm gonna be the first to admit I'm gonna make mistakes. But if there's one thing I've learned in my life, mistakes aren't the end. They're an opportunity to move on, learn if you can, but if not, just be like, okay, well, did I do the best that I could do? And that's, even Mira probably got to see that on the stream when I was on. You know, I pretty much sucked a big arcade ball at every single mini game there was on that game that we played. But I pretty much just rolled with it the whole evening. And, you know, I guess if people want to say what I'm good at, I'm good at that, you know? Because it's, what else can I do? It's like, there's no point in getting upset. There's no point in bringing anyone else's energy down. And yeah, you know, if you're watching that and you're like, oh, I just want to gouge my eyes out because it's so horrible. It's like, well, what are you doing on the stream in the first place? You know, I was pretty much there to help out my friends. Because that was the most important thing. Is that my friend wanted me to be on there and I wanted to be on there to support her. So even if I was the worst player of the night, hey, I look at it like I made everyone else look really good. I made everyone else have like a better time just because I was so easygoing about stuff. I mean, because I know there are so many gamers who could get like so gamer mad, to use a phrase I've heard in my Scribble, that, you know, it just kind of ruins it for everybody. So I didn't want to be that gamer. I would rather be the bad gamer than the mad gamer, I guess. You know, because to me at that point, I'm more there to help someone. And it's not really about like, oh, how good do I look on this stream? Like, how well did I jump through the hoops? It's like, no, I was just there to help out and have fun. So if I did that, nothing else matters, really. That's true. Collie, he says, and you did so with grace on that stream. And part of what makes a barn happy is making other people feel good. And that's true. Yeah, and having fun is the most important thing. And I think that with so much perfection, like, it's very easy to forget to have fun. And I guess like that's the biggest thing too that I don't want to lose sight of, is it's not how well I do at something, it's, am I sending out a good message? Am I sending out a good vibe? That's the most important thing, because if I get so caught up in what things look like that I forget as a bard and a writer the importance of a good message, then I'm not doing any of this for the right reasons. And I'm not doing them for my reasons, most importantly. So yeah, that's kind of a long and convoluted way of talking about what I kind of went through the last month. I'm kind of curious to hear from chat, like, what are some things that all of you have been struggling with, or what are some things that you've had to deal with? It's mostly just because I want to be able to hear from you guys and maybe, have a discussion around some of that, since all you have been very sweet in hanging out with me and listening to me. Just kind of talk about what's been going on with me. I want to kind of switch gears a little bit and see what you guys have been going through. Just because I feel like I'm good at giving advice too, and it'd be cool for all of us to kind of talk about some things. Callie, lots of emotional struggles, but don't mind me. Oh. Well, I think I have, I have some idea, because you and I are familiar with each other, not just on the Twitterverse. We sort of know each other, a little bit more than that. But yeah, I kind of have some idea of what you're probably going through, and it's okay. Aurora says, well, I've been dealing with school. I'm a theater major, costume specifically. So the plague has made things weird and stressful because we have to do everything over Zoom. And the costume department wasn't allowed to use the color green because of the green screens. Oh no. Oh no. So that means all of you guys might have been blending into the background if you were wearing green. And besides, it sounds like a little slice of hell to have to do theater through a scribble. That, I don't envy you on that. And I think the plague is definitely... Colleen says so much for forest scenes. Definitely. Well, let's just hope you're not doing a Midsummer Night's Dream or something like that with like huge spans of stuff out in nature. But I don't blame you. I think this plague has made it very difficult for a lot of people, especially people with disabilities, because I don't know about you, Aurora, but I've just been like, no, don't touch me. Like, don't get anywhere near me, And Aurora says, yeah, it was definitely a bit of a nightmare, but we made it through. Well, good. I'm glad you made it through. And she says, we did do Radium Girls, and green is an important motif in that show. I don't know how the crew on that one pulled it off. Yeah, I would imagine with a title like that, green would be very central. And she says, I've been so nervous about it because of my asthma and stuff. Yeah, I don't blame you. I actually have a history of asthma, along with other things, so it is definitely also something that I struggle with too. And makes this plague particularly nerve-wracking. Oh, yeah, it's too many commoners with contagion. No, get away. This is where I wish I had a paladin's, immunity to, disease. But yeah, I'm also kind of excited because, just on a note before I forget about it, I will actually be on a stream on the 3rd with another VTuber with a disability. She is a disability advocate, and so she's going to be doing a stream on the 3rd, which is Disability Awareness Day, I believe. And so I'm looking forward to that. If you guys are interested, I'm going to be posting about it on Twitter. When the time gets close, I think that she would love to have more people participate. So if you're interested in possibly participating in that stream, let me know and I will connect you with her. Yes, and Kali is right that I need to put my emotes made by the wonderful Ghosty in on my Twitch, because I do have some now and it would be cool to use them. So I do need to figure out how to do that and give myself a bit of time to do so. But yeah, anybody else want to talk about some things you've been going through and all that stuff? Cause I do want to spend a little bit of my slots on helping any of you guys, or at least being a good listening ear, minimum. Otherwise, I will probably keep this cast short, or on the shorter end, because I just kind of wanted to get back in the swing of things, but not do anything too long or complicated. And Kali, I'm so glad I have you as my support bard. And, I know there have been times that this little princess asks for a whole lot from you that she probably shouldn't. So, I'll try to be a little more reasonable in what kinds of stuff I ask. Kali says, so have you been getting more used to streaming and switching scenes? A little bit. I mean, I did kind of set some of that stuff up, but I kind of want to show that off, maybe on my next stream, which my next official stream will be on Sunday. So that's kind of where I want to show off maybe some of my prowess, my gained proficiency in this. Because if I did switch scenes, that would mean I might want to play a game or something, and I'm just kind of I don't have the energy right now, so I'm probably just gonna keep it at this. But yeah, I have been getting a little more confident, and I need to just remember to do myself a favor and write things down. I don't know how many of you are like me, but I have to have a piece of parchment right next to my scribble so that I write down what I need to do. Otherwise I might forget to do it. So this is gonna sound really not smart of me, but what is a stream deck? Shadow, is that like what they used to have for Twitter and a tweet deck? Cause if it is, this little TV has not heard of it. I'm sorry. I am so new to some of this stuff, but that's what happens when you're just oh, I want to do this, and you just decide you're gonna learn as you go. Shadow says it's a nice, simple macro set up for streaming. Cool. I'm gonna have to check that out. So, Kali, if you would not mind making a note of that, just so that I remember, just so that I remember it in case it goes right out in one ear and out the other. Boy. So yeah, I'm excited to test that out. I'm also kind of hoping that I can get some things with my model squared away so I can maybe start testing that out in some streams as well, and maybe even seeing if I can get some more expressions to work and things like that. But this was actually really nice. I mean, I know I probably could have written down my thoughts a bit more, but I just kind of wanted to uh go with it. The VR chat model. Yes, that's the one I'm referencing. I do want to try to get a version of that loaded into my stream so that I can give that a test, because I actually had to get my artisan to help me convert it to VRM to even start trying to do that. Yeah, if you want to send me a picture of a shadow, you can. Otherwise, as long as I have a note reminding me of what it's called, I can also look it up too. Do I have anything else in the works? Yes, I actually have a 2D live model in the works as well. And it's being made for me by a wonderful artisan. Agent Monochrome is what they go by. And the reason they are so amazing is that they are the only 2D live person that was able to even conceive of making a disc for me in 2D live. All of the other 2D live artisans did not have the skill to do that I had originally contacted to do something like that for me. So when Monochrome said, heck yeah, I think I can do that for you, Miss Tiefy, I was over the moon. So they are working on something of that sort for me. I'm very excited about it. I feel bad though because I've had to give them a lot of little feedback and little changes and things, and I hate being that tiefling because I'm like, I don't want them to get irritated and go, goodness, for all the gold pieces she paid me for this, she's not worth the trouble. Is how I feel when I have way too many, like, can you change this or tweak this and stuff? But I guess it's fine. I mean, as long as I'm not doing that all the time, I guess it's okay, but still, I mean, because I even had to write them today and ask for like another little adjustment, and I offered to pay them a little bit extra for all the trouble, which I hope makes up for it, because I know what it's like to be in that situation where you're creating something for somebody and you're doing your thing, and then they want you to make adjustments and things like that. I know what kind of headache it can be, not because I'm a techno wizard and can do that stuff, but as a writer and someone who has done writing on a contract basis before, I know what that's like, and so I really try my hardest not to be like that. Hello. So, and there it goes. My brain just went out the window. There it is. So, anyway, what I was saying was I really try my best not to be that tiefling that has all sorts of changes and fixes and stuff But Collie, you're right. It is kind of a brand image, and I I do want to look in a way that represents me best, but I also know that, the various simulacrums of me and the various like differing illusions of me basically that I'm able to project, right? They're always going to be a little bit different than what this is. So, I've done my best to try to get it close, but I'm also realizing that I have to accept that there's a little, it's just not going to always be the same. So I kind of have to get used to like a different way that it looks, but similar enough where it's still me. So that's just been kind of the struggle with all these models and things, is being like, okay, when do I need to be picky, and when do I really need to stick up for how this should look, but then like where's the point at which it's as good as it's gonna get, and that I need to just leave it alone, like. So that's another just I have a little bit of a perfectionistic streak that way. and Collie says, I'm just biased after being the one to animate your pick through images before your current setup. Which is true, okay? That's why you do have a reason to be picky and be like, no, Tiffy needs to look cute. She needs to look a certain way. Like, I appreciate that. It's just like I'm trying to balance that because it's valid with the fact that I have this person like working a lot for me to do this. So, so I need to find that middle ground. And it can be hard, but I just really hope Monochrome is chill and doesn't get too upset with me, because, I don't want him to be like, I don't want to work on this anymore because you're like a pain to work with. I really hope that's not the case, because if so, I'm going to be way back to square one on that. But I think he should be okay, especially if I just, sweeten the deal a little bit more, maybe. Oh yeah, and if I'm lucky enough, this month I would also like to find some artists who would be willing to do some family portraits for me. And I'm bringing this up, because I know that I brought it up on one of my last Diablo streams, which is unfortunately not on Twitch anymore. I did bring it up that I was going to be getting artwork of some family members, and that I had an artist lined up for that. And due to things with that artist, it's kind of, well, it's not kind of, it's pretty much not gonna happen. They're not really in the space to do the artwork I was hoping that they would do. So, if anyone in chat is a good artist or knows of some good artists, I would really love to get some recommendations on Twitter or even in chat here of who you would recommend, because I would really like to get some family portraits done. I would also like to get some scenes done, because I love seeing all those other VTubers with lots of artwork and little comics and little, things like that, and I don't have anything like that. I have a couple little emotes and a couple of things like that, but I would really like some more artwork. So if any of you have any recommendations, this Tiefy would love you a lot for them. Yeah, and it's sad about the artist. She's just she's not in a good place right now, and you know me, I respect that, and if she's not in the space, she's not in the space, and so that's why I'm just kind of looking for some other artists so that basically I can get the work done that I need and that person can take the time that she needs to heal. And Collie says there are some artist types in my disability group. Yes, there are. So I could go to them for some art pieces for sure. But I also just brought it up in chat because I like giving my viewers something to feel engaged with. I mean, because I know that I would like that too. Because I'm the TV that's like, oh, I've got suggestions. So that's kind of why I just mentioned it, just in case there are any other suggestions. Thank you, Shadow, for that one. I will check them out, for sure. And if I like their style, I will think about getting in their queue. Yeah, so that's kind of the one of my plans that I have to do. Let me go back up in chat here, because I'm pretty sure that I missed. Oh yeah, Collie had asked me, do you have any other games other than Diablo and D&D that you were able to get far in the game with? Well, part of me wants to say, well, Collie, define far. I mean, there are some games that I'm good at. I did bring up, I kind of mentioned a game that I'm good at because of the macro system. That is another game I can think of. It's Maple Story, the original Maple Story. I'm pretty good at that game, I think, but that's mostly just because it's not very complicated. I mean, and because I can put the key functions on buttons. That's one of the main reasons that I'm a little bit better at MapleStory, because, well, it's well and truly accessible in the way that I can do layouts the way I need and that they function the way I need, and that I have the ability to build in macros so that 3 buttons turns into 1 button. And I really do enjoy that game, and that actually might be one that I might stream as well, just for like a really laid back, cozy game. Also because who doesn't like the style of MapleStory? I mean, it's super cute. So how can you go wrong with that? Plus, there's tons of classes to choose from, and all that kind of stuff. So it is one of my favorite games, and I do have some pretty high level characters on there. If I did do a stream, would you guys want me to just play around with one of my higher level characters and just like, just kind of do it as something next time if I do like a chat stream, just kind of have that going? Or I could start a new character and just kind of play along with that, and I could maybe even do a little bit of both. I never actually thought about streaming that game. But then again, I never thought I'd be here being a streamer, so there's that. Kali says, what is your highest level character there? I believe it's a toss-up between a demon avenger and I believe the class is called a Mercedes. I think it's an elven dual-wielding monster machine, kinda. Like, she just mows through monsters. I think those are my two highest characters, if I remember correctly. And then Kali said, okay, let's see what Aurora says. I'd like to see either one. I remember Maple Story, but I never played it myself. And Aurora, you should play it. And if nothing else, maybe that could be something that would be a good collab game. Cause I don't know, it would be fun to have like a party in game and go fight off some of those big monsters. That require you to have a party to go slay them. And Kali says that game has changed so much. Since it was talked about in the news, and then Eclipse says, give a taste of how the story starts and then show how the end game looks. Yeah, I suppose I could do that, or closer to end game. Because really in Maple Story, I think that the highest level is 250. So I really haven't gotten to what's considered the end of the end game, but sure, I could definitely I could definitely do that. I think that would be cool. Kali says it's free, just saying. Not sponsored. Yes, absolutely not sponsored, but it's a good game. I know a lot of people would look at that and probably say, "Oh, that's so retro," but it's more friendly to Tiefy than a lot of the newer games. So that's one game. I also like Plants vs Zombies. I've kind of, I might do that again, like maybe next year for Spooky Month or something. I might do something like that. I'm better at simpler games, but don't get me wrong. I really like games with a lot of good story and a lot of character development, which coincidentally or not, Maple Story has a bit of both of those things. And then Kali adds, which is impressive because Maple requires a lot of buttons and macros. Yes, it does. But like you're pointing out right now, the reason I can even have a chance of like really enjoying it is because I finally have a controller that is detectable by that game. I don't know what happened, but a few years ago, the controller I had the game decided, nope, I'm not detecting your device anymore, and so I was kind of out of luck, and then I ended up getting a new controller yesterday that finally I plugged it in, and my support bard actually thought to switch on the digital part of how that controller gets sensed, and it was actually able to work again. So yay, it actually means that I'm more than likely going to be able to play that again. Which is, if I had to have one final topic, it would be that whole thing of access and like how for my demographic there may be solutions or ways that people tell you, oh, we're making this accessible. But then the access doesn't go all the way. So like that Maple Story game, it's had the controller functionality, but because there were weirdnesses within the controller and then within the game itself, for some reason, that game went from being completely accessible to someone with a disability like me who wants to use a controller. I couldn't play that game anymore. And that doesn't happen for a lot of able-bodied streamers. It's not like they just wake up one day and they're like, well, can't play that game anymore. And, so I think that's the other important thing. Is like, I don't say that to make people feel bad for me or anything. I don't want them to, but that's kind of why when people are like, oh, I hate this game for this reason, or I hate the graphics, or I hate the music, or I hate this or that, I'm just like, well, in my opinion, I'm going to be happy if I can play that game at all. If I can play that with any consistency, because even if I don't make games my main streaming focus, I still want to be able to participate. And so, because I even have to worry about, is this game going to continue to be accessible? Like, that's something not very many other streamers have to deal with. Or, in another example from just this week, actually, before the controller I got last night, I purchased one that was specifically an adaptive piece of equipment. Only to realize that, yes, while it was adaptive, it was expensive, first of all. But second of all, it wasn't just good enough to have the one main piece of the controller. You needed to have a whole suite of other buttons and other peripherals just to make the access of the assistive adaptive controller be adaptive. And so from where I'm sitting, even that adaptive controller was not adaptive enough for my particular disabilities, because it ended up spreading out the entire controller into this massive web of buttons. And I'm sitting on my disc saying, well, I just need to change the buttons and the arrangement of the buttons. And the fact that I can't even do that without like one or two other collections of items is, how is that access? I mean, I'm not gonna sit there and say that this company shouldn't have made it, because I'm glad they made it, don't get me wrong. But when you consider that most people with disabilities are on limited incomes, and that they may not have the ability to afford even one part of that adaptive equipment, why make it so that you need more than one piece of adaptive equipment? And so in trying to make something usable, you've made it unusable, firstly because nobody for the intended demographic can afford it. And if any of you were on my stream that I did last month for a friend of mine, Uzumaki, who at the time was looking for different living accommodations, and I was talking about housing and disability and how a lot of the accessible or safer or in better neighborhoods, but mostly accessible units are priced out of the demographic for which they're built. And I brought up this point that said, how is that serving anybody if you can't afford it? Let me just check on notes here. Okay, Shadow. If you need to go to bed, go ahead and go to bed. Get as much rest as you need. Um, it was great to have you. Um, and I really do hope to see you next stream, but sleep well. Um, but yeah, so it's the same thing here. Is that one part of the adaptive controller is normally 150 gold pieces. It was on sale for 75 gold pieces. Rare. Oh, thank you. So I think we have some kind of raid happening. Okay. So basically, thank you for the raid. So basically, even at the 75 gold pieces that I purchased it for, thank you so much. Yeah, I reached affiliate last month and then, didn't do very much. But your congratulations are welcome. I'm finding my groove again, and thank you also for the raid. It really means a lot. I wasn't expecting it. So basically, to get back on what I was saying before I completely lose track of it, was even on sale for the 75 gold pieces, most people in my demographic do not have 75 gold pieces to spend on really what they need, not to mention spending it on what is priced like a luxury item, such as this adaptive controller. But then add on top of that a whole new suite of other things that you need just to be able to use the buttons. I looked at that and I said, well, even if that's going to be accessible for some people, which it is, the pricing is still all wrong. It's like, why is this being treated like a luxury item when if you're building this to try to have inclusion, the inclusion comes at a price tag that it's exclusive. You see what I mean? So this is where even with that adaptive controller, I just am like, I appreciate the thought. Oh, and thank you for the follow. I appreciate the fact that these companies are thinking in terms of we should build this for these gamers who have disabilities, but it really makes this Tiefy angry. That thought doesn't also go into, if we're providing for this demographic, should we really be pricing this at 150 gold pieces when this demographic is known to live with less and in fact has to deal with other factors such as policy and other sorts of things which keep them in sort of maybe what you might define as poverty or on the lower end of the economic scale. So that controller, while I had high hopes for it, wasn't going to cut it. Because not only did it not fix my particular issue, but from a bigger social standpoint, it's like, what is this even doing? It's like the carrot that's there to just say, well, we have it, and you're like, well, I'd like one, please, but I can't afford it. And let's see. So Kuma says, she says it's like that for so many things disabled people need. And I guess they get away with it by saying insurance will cover it, but that's no excuse. And it isn't even true a lot of the time. That's true too. Yes, I could try switching over to a game, but I'm getting kind of sweaty and nervous thinking about that, so I kind of don't want to. I mean, I know it'd be like probably more fun, but like I'm kind of nervous about that. Oh boy. Okay, well, I guess I could. No, golly, I don't want to go over and do a game. I'm nervous. Okay, I'm like sweaty. Okay, I can't even grab my scribe ball right now. I'm casting create water out of my hands because I'm nervous. Well, I don't know. I mean, I could do it. I'm really nervous. It's like I'm not really in the mood to game, but I don't know. Chat, vote. If enough of you want me to just go like turn on a game, I guess I could, but I'm not even like really prepped to do that. So if I were really gonna do it, I should have like prepped way before I even got on this cast. Yeah, I think I'm gonna just probably like keep it at this for now. You know, because I really didn't prep to have the game ready, so. But is there anything that you guys want to talk about while I'm on here, especially those of you who came with the raid? Just, because I want to involve you guys. Hello! Thanks for the follow over buttered toast. I love that. But yeah, so that's just been all kinds of That's just been all kinds of things I've been dealing with this past month. Thanks for joining me. I'm just kind of chatting and was kind of thinking about maybe if I should do a game or not. It would take me some time to get ready, and I don't know. I could be in the gaming mood. But you all let me know. I might do a little bit of something. But like I say, I kind of wasn't planning on it, but maybe I should learn to be a little more spontaneous. What do you guys think? No, Collie, I know you're fine. It's just, I don't know if I feel up to it. I mean, I could. Okay, well, what do you guys think? I know Collie's like, TV, do a game. If I really start rolling ones playing that game, I'm blaming you, man. Well, I mean, I'm just fine chatting too, but it's. I mean, if I did play, my. It doesn't matter if you'll take responsibility. It's like I wasn't like ready to do this, really, but. Okay. Well, I guess I can see about it. I don't know how smoothly it's gonna go over, but if I do, I'm gonna swap screens now. But then I have to figure out how to change my description, though, is the other thing. So, and I'm not sure how you do that without quitting one stream and doing all that. So, yeah, it just means that if I transition over now, it's just gonna still say, hey, this cast was just chatting, but no, it actually has game in it. So, I don't know. I could do it. but well, yeah, right. I guess we'll see. If I can get it to work, I'll get it to work. If not, I guess I can always just try to come back to chatting, or I might, end it there if I can't get it to work. We'll see. Collie, yes, it's good practice, but Support Bard is doing enough supporting, okay? Okay, so let me see about getting it over. I'm seeing about the game loading right now. Let's see here if I can get it to do what I need it to do here.